Hey all you cool cats and kittens. No, I'm just kidding, but if you get that reference, love that. But hi guys. Welcome to our first podcast, most likely our last, depending how this goes. I'm Sam.
And I'm Steph, and today we're going to talk about some topics that are very important to us and very relevant to everyone's life and the earth. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about fast fashion and the food system.
So today we actually have a guest. I have my 12-year-old little brother Jack with us today. Hi Jack.
Hello.
Okay. And so during this, he's gonna ask any questions he wants. At the end, we'll get more feedback if he doesn't have any questions, just so we can kind of get the opinion of what a 12-year-old's boy, what his opinion is on all of this stuff. Kind of get an understanding of his generation.
Yeah, so one of the big things that kind of goes hand in hand with fast fashion and the food system is the amount of waste that it produces.
For sure.
Yeah, I know Sam and I have talked about so many things. Like, for example, there's so much food that gets thrown out in the world, and with that is about 1/3 of the Earth's water supply. And if you kind of really think about it, like one juicy quarter pounder at McDonald's takes about 660 gallons of water to produce. Seafood and vegetables, their waste in 2018 was about 50%. There's 7 million tons of food that ends up going in the trash each year. Yet, there's 815 million people going hungry.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Say, what, in your opinion, 1 out of 10, how much food and, clothing, material do you think is wasted a year?
So we're actually going to get into that. As you can see, so food that's wasted a year,
70 million tons of food.
Yeah, 70 million tons of food end up going into the trash every year. And we're actually going to get into how much clothes are also thrown away each year. So we'll get into that one a little bit later, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I threw a bunch of numbers at you guys before. So, what does it all mean? So basically, it means all of our water is being used up and wasted, while some people don't even have access to clean water.
So, actually, when I wanted to kind of add in, when it comes to what people do and don't have access to, it reminds me of a video that I had watched, and it had to do with the access that low-income areas, specifically Black communities, have to food and water. And we focused on this in a class of mine, and we talked about how if you're in a low-income area, you'll see that there's a lot of obesity and also water and food scarcity in the areas. And it goes back into, what was I going to say? It goes back into...
the waste of everything, yet these areas, are going hungry and stuff, and they're not getting the good food, yet all the good food's kind of getting wasted and thrown away by the more privileged communities, I'd say.
Yeah, no, exactly, yeah. There's such a scarcity in these low-income areas, and, we have so much food that's in water that's being wasted, and yet we have these communities that are in this scarcity. So it's just kind of like, why are we having this issue?
Yeah, and all this food is just getting thrown into landfills, and we're knocking down trees in order to get this food, and there's so many people going hungry. Like I said before, 815 million people go hungry worldwide each year, and it's just so sad to think about the amount of food we waste. And And another thing, with this food, you knock down trees and stuff, and you need fields in order to get these animals, and we're running out of arable land. Our livestock covers about 45% of Earth's arable land, so when these companies cut down these trees and cut down these forests, they're taking away animals' habitats, and these trees provide us with oxygen and absorb our carbon. So without these trees, our carbon goes up. Animal agriculture is the leading cause for climate change in the world, which I don't think is really noticed as much as people might think. They think, driving their car might be something that can change. But it accounts for 32,000 million tons of carbon dioxide per year, the animal agriculture system. and that's about 51% of all the world's greenhouse gas emissions.
So maybe like wondering how. So yeah, okay. The animal agriculture system produces a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, but you may be wondering, okay, but what in that? Like, what produces those gas emissions? And it's sometimes the easy, like the simple things that we don't realize, in order to contribute to deforestation. How do we knock down those trees? We have all of these tractors. We're knocking down and dragging these trees, and with using, like our cars, using tractors, we're using gas. We're putting gas into the air, those fuels into the air. And also going into the agriculture system, in order to produce so much meat, and how to do it, we have to feed these animals, specifically cows, corn. Corn can't be digested by cows, if you don't already know. So when, they go to the bathroom, they go number 2, or they let out, little toots, it's methane that goes into the air. It's, so that's going into our ozone layer, and that is producing a lot of pollution just from our tractors and from cows alone. And it's crazy that, like, that on top of the regular amount of carbon dioxide that's going into the world, like, that itself, it's crazy that itself is producing and contributing to the greenhouse gas emissions.
So, Jack, how do you feel that cows' farts and poops contribute to, the greenhouse gas and climate change?
It just sounds weird.
Right?
Like something that like you wouldn't think about.
Yeah.
And say like that a cow, when he goes to number 2,
Mm-hmm.
that it would like do something to the greenhouse.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, it's pretty crazy when it comes to, so greenhouse gas emissions, it's pollution that's being put into the air. So you know about pollution. And it is really weird to think when I first heard that, when a cow goes to the bathroom, the gas that's being emitted from them is hurting our air. It's hurting what we breathe. But it's because we're hurting the cows, because we're giving them bad food to eat.
Is it like, are we just feeding like the cows bad food? Or is it like every animal?
It's most animals. Cows the number 1, kind of like good example. So cows digest grass. So you want to be going out and, we'll be talking about this later, but, buying from local farms where they have grass-fed cows because cows can digest that grass. So it's kind of like if we eat just like bad food all the time, like unhealthy bad food, we can't really digest those bad foods. So like if you would just want to eat, the sweet chili Doritos that you love, if you just want to eat those all the time, your body's not going to really like that. And this is the same thing with corn going into cows. Their bodies don't like it, but it makes them really meaty, which is why we give it to them, so that there's a lot of meat on the cow. So when we kill them, we have a lot of meat that comes off to eat. But with that, it comes with those repercussions where we hurt the earth. So we should be giving them grass. So it's like us eating our vegetables. It's good for us. We want to do that. We want to do that with the cows too. We want them to eat grass. But because we want to, get as much meat as we can to feed people, we're going to feed them corn so they get as much meat on them as possible.
Say like that cows didn't eat grass.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's like any other better food that we could feed cows? Like
that's a good question. I don't really know.
like for them to be meatier, but like not be like.
But not eat corn.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That's a good question.
There's probably research on it.
Yeah.
But I think, these companies use, like, these grains and stuff because it's, like, the cheapest option.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It's kind of like me eating dairy and it not settling well. Like, that's the same thing that happens to them.
Steph is lactose intolerant, very lactose intolerant.
Sadly.
But yeah, so this actually brings us into fast fashion. So what is fast fashion if you don't know? It's basically trendy clothes being made as quickly as possible and being sold as cheap as possible for our consumers. And so this has basically turned from a two seasons a year, two, trendy fashion seasons a year, into 52 seasons a year. So that means there's a season every single week of the year. So what has this caused? What has having there be so many seasons of fashion trends a year cost?
POLLUTION. That's pollution.
Yeah, it's caused. Fast fashion really contributes to pollution. So there's 18 billion items that's manufactured every year globally, and here in the U.S., 84% of our clothes end up in landfills each year. So for the industry to continuously produce cheap clothes at a fast rate and to keep their customers satisfied with the quality of their clothes, they make their clothes mostly with synthetic polymers, which is kind of where we get into the pollution aspect of it. And we'll, before I talked about landfills, we'll get into that a little bit later. But a main contributor is how we make our clothes. So these synthetic clothes are not biodegradable. So when they're put into the landfills, they don't break down. An example of a synthetic polymer, if you don't know, is our known polyesters and nylon that are used to make clothes. And fun fact, nylon can take up to 30 to 40 years to decompose, and polyester can take up to 200 years to decompose.
Now you may be thinking, hey, at least they decompose at some point. Don't get too ahead of yourself there, because these materials decompose into the soil. They are releasing microplastics, which can once again pollute a nearby area. Another part of the pollution they cause is greenhouse gases. Nitrous oxide, which is one of the gases they produce, is actually 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide.
I have a question about the other one.
Yeah, okay.
It was about the first clothing one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So since we're under quarantine,
mm-hmm.
since you said there's 18 billion items manufactured every year,
mm-hmm.
under quarantine, how much clothing do you think they make a year now?
So they're still making clothes. So that's one reason why. So Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So they make clothes. You can buy clothes from them. And actually the other day, last week, there was a protest that went on with Amazon because Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, is still having his workers work. So all of those clothes that are being made, all of the products that are being made and shipped out to people who order some stuff online, they're still being made. Everything is still running continuously. So a lot of people can't quarantine because they're not allowed to take time off. Mom,
mm-hmm.
She's considered an essential worker because of her job. And those people who are making clothes, they're considered essential workers too. So even though we're under quarantine, there's a lot of workers who can't quarantine because of the job that they're in. So there's still a lot of just as much clothes that are being produced as there was last year before quarantine. And yeah.
And also these companies mass produce their stuff, so a lot of this stuff is already made before this whole corona thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of my friends are shopping online right now, and they're getting a lot of discounts because these companies have so much clothes and
mm-hmm.
they don't know what to do with it since people aren't coming into stores and buying it.
But how many clothing, 18 billion items are manufactured, but how much of those clothing items do you think are bought while we're under quarantine?
Probably a lot because, so this is 18 billion items a year globally. So when you're thinking about, we're in May right now, so we haven't reached 18 billion yet throughout the year. But since there's still people working and still people making clothes and still people, shipping those clothes to us, or whatever items you're getting, I'm going to assume that there's a lot of items still being bought, even though we're under quarantine, because of the amount of people that online shop. Because, people are bored right now. People don't have anything better to do. So a lot of people, since they can't shop, in person, they're going to do it online to kind of give them something to do.
But aren't, pretty much every single clothing store, closed because of coronavirus.
Yeah, but they
So-
still have, like, online websites that
Yeah,
people could buy on.
yeah.
Which is great.
There are still, like,
Kind of.
well,
Kind of, not really. Not in this
There's
context.
there actually are some stores that are closed, like even online too, because they don't want any of their workers having to leave their house to even like help ship stuff, help sew, make stuff. So Home Goods, Home Goods is a store in like Marshalls and TJ Maxx. They aren't allowing like anything to be bought online right now because like in person and online because they don't want to contribute to people like not staying home. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
So going back to what Steph said earlier and how much water that's being used and wasted in the food system, don't you worry, because the fashion industry is doing the same thing. Actually, just one cotton t-shirt alone takes 2,700 liters of water to make. And there's one thing that's pretty interesting about this. So many factories are put into developing areas, and because of this, there's already a scarcity of water. I'll be talking about this later, but just because there's so much water being used in these factories doesn't mean that they're using all of the water. So all of the leftover water that these factories aren't used, they're being put into lakes and rivers. And like I said before, these factories are usually in developing areas. So this water that's being put into rivers and lakes is not clean water. It's very unclean water. It's very contaminated. It's very toxic. It has like lead and mercury and more toxins in it. So not only is it already like adding on to the issues of the scarcity of water in these developing areas, it's hurting people, like, it's contributing to the scarcity. And if people don't know about like a river being contaminated and they want fresh water to drink or bathe in, they have no idea that they're drinking or putting this contaminated water on themselves. And yeah, so that's just like, yeah, a lot of water is being produced just to produce one t-shirt. But all of the water that's being collected isn't even being used, and then at the end of the day, it's being contaminated and put into areas that it just shouldn't be put into.
You said just one cotton t-shirt alone takes 2,700 liters of water to make.
Mm-hmm.
Like per day, if like say like a human would drink water like every day, how much is like the average amount of water a person would drink a day?
8 glasses of water. So like.
But like how many liters would that be?
Like 1.5? I think 1.5.
1.5 liters.
Yeah.
So, just one.
I don't know how many.
Let's do some research right here.
Okay.
How many liters
Wait, so
are in a cup?
So basically, just one cotton t-shirt takes over like 80 glasses.
No, there's no liters in a cup. So if you think about like a liter,
how many cups are in a liter?
well, if you think about like a liter of Coke, right?
Yeah.
So think about
Okay.
12,700 bottles of Coke in front of us right now.
Mm-hmm.
But make all of that water. That's how much would be put into one cotton t-shirt to make.
Really?
So yeah, imagine drinking all of that water.
Yeah. We need to drink about 2 liters a day.
Yeah.
For us.
So you can drink like 2 of those like Coke bottles a day, right?
Yeah.
But imagine drinking 2,700 of them.
So basically.
A lot of water.
So basically, it's a big waste.
Oh,
really big waste. Yeah.
Huge.
And how many would you say they make a day of the t-shirts?
Oh, they're making like thousands a day. Remember, there's 18 billion items of clothing being made a year. So if you think about what that's down to a day, you'd do 18 billion divided by 365. And just do some quick mental math right here.
By what?
18 billion divided by 365.
Let me see, it carry the 3, add the 2. Okay, so in my mind, I totally got this by myself. It's 49,315,068.5.
That's how much cotton t-shirts that they've made out of the 18 billion.
About how much clothes is being made.
So let's say every piece of clothing that's being made is a cotton t-shirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So say, that means there's 18 billion cotton t-shirts being made a year. Because that's the only clothes that we have in this scenario. No pants, no socks, no nothing. Just these cotton t-shirts. So that would basically mean that every day, 49 million t-shirts are being made.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy, huh?
Yeah.
So, back to what we were talking about. Oh, yeah. So, when we were talking about the unclean water and put into these developing areas, this kind of leads me to what goes on in developing areas and the hard human labor that really goes on in these developing areas. So, as we now know, many factories are in these developing areas, and one being Bangladesh. And in Bangladesh specifically, many of the people working in these factories are mostly women and young girls. And they're really only being paid around 30 cents an hour. In some really rough places, it could be 30 cents a day. And they're working 12 to 14 hours daily. And there's one really bad incident that happened that kind of caught the attention of a lot of people in the fashion industry. Not enough people, in my opinion, but a good amount. And it was the Rana Plaza collapse in Dhaka, Bangladesh. So on April 24, 2013, there was a building that housed over 5 garment factories, and it collapsed. And it ended up killing 1,132 people and injuring over 2,500, making it the worst incident with that many deaths in the fashion industry. And this has been kind of like a staple for what fashion can do to people. I don't think there should be ever any deaths because people want fashion. And it's crazy that one of the most underpaid jobs in the world, these women are expected to work in these unsafe environments. There's been a lot of women who reported getting sick from occupational diseases, and a lot of these buildings that these women are working in usually don't meet any required standards, which is what results in these tragic deaths like the Rana Plaza collapse.
Wait, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What's up?
So, like, on a minimum, whatever it is, paid job, like...
Minimum?
Yeah, like, mommy doesn't she make, like, 13 an hour or something?
Yeah.
And they're working, like, 12 to 14 hours,
Yeah.
but only making, like, half $1. Like,
Yeah.
not even.
Yeah, so let me put it in perspective too. A new Xbox One is about $300, right?
Yeah.
So in order to pay that off, if you really want an Xbox One, but you're working over there in those unsafe conditions, getting 30 cents a day, let's say, it would take you 1,000 days to pay off that Xbox.
Jeez.
That's
Yeah.
2.7 years. So how did that make you feel? It would take you 2.7 years just to pay that off.
How do they afford a house?
They don't. A lot of these people in Bangladesh, a lot of them make their houses. A lot of them are homeless. So in Bangladesh, actually, there's supposed to be a minimum wage of $68 a month that these people are supposed to be getting. $68 a month. Think about that. And there's still a lot of factories and companies that are in charge that don't even give that much money a month.
Yeah.
So would you want to work like that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, but, like, couldn't they, like, leave and go somewhere else? Try to get a job?
So the problem with that is there's, the area that they're living in is, part of like a developing country as you know it. And with that comes not a lot of job opportunities, and just not a lot of jobs that
would
can
hire women
that can,
and young girls.
So like there's a lot of developing countries. This goes into a whole nother topic, but there's a lot of governments that don't really want to hire women or young girls in general.
And these women don't have, like, the education like you do that can get them, like, better placing jobs.
Yeah, so like,
this is all they can get.
Yeah, there's a lot of women that really the only opportunity that they have if they do want to work is to work these really low paid jobs in these unsafe working environments. A lot of people just feel like they don't have, like, an escape. They, it takes a lot more than just to be able to, just say, oh, I should quit, sadly, because there's a lot that goes into the reason why that they're working there, because, that's the only job that'll take them there. It's, when we're talking about clothes and making clothes, when you think about, who are the people that, make clothes and deal with clothes? A lot of people think women. So they think it's, like, more of a woman's job than a man's job in some places. So a lot of these women, they don't have a lot of places to get a job. And a lot of women aren't, or in bad positions where they may be told to not get a job. So this is kind of what they have left. Yeah. All right, and going into a little bit of another topic, in terms of fast fashion, that we talked about before in the food industry is animals. And when we think about fashion, high-end fashion, there's a lot of garments that are made with animal fur and animal skin, and a lot of the times these animals are not being treated necessarily nicely when people want to use them for their fur and skin to put on clothes. And that's why I'm glad, personally, that, if someone does want, like, something fur, a lot of places are doing faux fur now. But regardless, there are still places that are using real fur and skin.
Yeah, and talking about, like, this mistreatment of animals and just living things in general with, like, these women, the food industry is just doing an awful job of their treatment in animals, One of the biggest things I could think of is, in the egg industry, male chickens are deemed as useless because they can't lay eggs or grow fast enough to make good and fast meat. So at just 1 day old, they're put in these machines and just killed, and it's just so sad to think about. You have pigs that have sores and they're disease ridden, and a lot of disease that we get from eating them happens because they're not in sanitary, healthy conditions being taken care of right. And that's really something we have to change. And I like to think of filet mignon, which I tried spelling 4 times today and got every single one right. Just a little fun fact for you.
Every single one of them wrong.
Oh,
you spelled it wrong horribly.
Yeah. I spelled it so wrong that Sam didn't even know I was saying filet mignon. So I'm a little embarrassed. But so these young calves are put in cages that they can't even move in, and they're put in these cages because, if they don't move, then they don't produce muscle and their meat won't be so tough. But it's so sad they're just, like, constrained to these, like, cages where they can't even, like, turn around in. And just, God, like, I've seen so many clips or tried to watch so many clips about all these things, and I have to turn it off immediately because I just start, like, waterworks just everywhere.
Yeah.
I have, like, a quick question.
Yeah.
It's not, like, the most on topic, but, like, you were saying that, like, the food industry has not been doing a great job at all. Like, this is not on topic at all, but I looked up the other day, like, what fast food restaurant wastes the most food, and McDonald's was the first one. And they said all the scraps, they just, like, chuck them, and, like, they'll find, like, the McDonald's that have, like, playrooms and stuff, they'll find, like, over, like, 100, like, chicken nuggets from kids just on the ground.
Oh, wow.
And, like, burgers.
And if you think about that, a lot of places, like we were saying before, like, fast food areas are in poorer Black communities because they know they'll spend that cheap food. So imagine, like, all that food that they're wasting, they could just give back to the community and not waste it. Yeah. But, So talking about like trying not to waste, you know, we are going to talk about how we reduce our impact with food and fast fashion, and how you can hopefully also do this. So if you really want to with food, you can switch up your diet to a vegetarian or vegan diet. This would reduce your carbon footprint by 50%. How freaking cool is that? Pretty dang cool. Plus, by doing this, it would be increasing your health. So it would lower your cholesterol, your risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and even breast cancer, you know. And if you're thinking, hey, Steph, this isn't for me. I do not want to go full vegetarian. I do not want to go vegan. I love my meats. Trust me, I get it. I was in your position. But if just everybody in the United States went meatless for one day, then we would save 100 million gallons of water.
100
billion gallons of water. And we would reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 1.2 million tons. You know, when I first decided to stay away from meat, I was actually sitting in my room and I was texting Sam, and I was watching one too many sad animal videos that I was talking about before, and I watched this YouTube video called Veganism by Start the Wave. I highly recommend it. And I was like, Sam, should I just stop eating meats? And it was very impulsive, but it was one of the greatest decisions I made. And, you know, now I only eat chicken on occasion. I don't eat red meats, pork, and I try to limit my seafood intake too.
We can basically thank me for the reason why Steph did not, you know, decided to go with this, decided to, you know, not eat red meats, really any pork, limit her seafood and chicken intake. I would like to thank me, myself, and I am currently a sophomore, about to finish my sophomore year in college, and I stopped eating red meats and pork when I was a sophomore in high school. And I think I randomly did it originally. Actually, no, I did it because of the environment. Oh, no. Because I found out about all of the GMOs, all the nasty stuff that's put into our food, and how animals are treated. I would like look at bacon and I would feel so bad knowing how the animals were treated. So I decided to just say like, hey, why not? I tried it in middle school and I failed horribly.
I tried it for a day in middle school.
And so sophomore year, I was like, okay, I'm kind of at the age, I'm pretty sure I can like have some type of restraint. Let me do it. And it's been a solid 4 or 5 years now. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing pretty good. Mm-hmm. I really recommend it as well. You know, Meatless Mondays I think is a great kind of idea. I know I really want to do that because like we said, we do have some seafood and chicken. But I think the Meatless Mondays is a really good idea. Not is it good for our environment, it's good for your health. Like, if you just don't care about, you know, what you're doing to your environment, at least care about what you're doing to yourself. Mm-hmm. There's, you know, in America, we have so many health problems already. A lot of it is because of what we eat, as we know, as obesity is not good here. And, you know, my dad, for example, he had to stop eating red meats because of a health problem he had. And not only did his cholesterol get a lot better, his gout got better. Kind of random. But yeah, it's a good idea overall. I really recommend it to anyone.
I have a quick thing to add in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's up?
I thought this was really good that when last year when I was in 5th grade, mm-hmm. We went on a field trip, and mm-hmm. I forgot what it was, but they had like a farm of animals, mm-hmm. and we obviously ate there because we slept there for like 3 to 4 days. Mm-hmm. And
Nature's Classroom you went on, right?
Yeah. So what they did was when we ate like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all the scraps, they didn't just chuck them. They put them in like a separate container mm-hmm. and fed them to like
the animals.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
And like
that's awesome.
So on Nature's Classroom, we had like more playtime than we did anything else. Mm-hmm. I think we had at least 3 hours a day of it. I was just, like, playing outside, and every pound of food that was wasted was 20 minutes off.
Wow.
So it was either food wasn't wasted or like, they fed it to the animals, so, like, not even, like, one scrap of food was wasted.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Because they made, like, there was, like, a salad bar, a meat bar, a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. And, like, it's kind of funny how, like, they feed the animals their own meat, but like everything like that, no one like touched in there. They would just like take the things and put it in a container and like give some to every animal to feed them like breakfast and whatever else meals they eat.
That's really cool, and it teaches you guys like how waste affects. You take a little bit away from your playtime, it really makes that connection. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like whatever you don't eat, that can be put towards something else, like an animal if you have a farm. That also kind of goes into composting. It's something I'm actually going to be starting this summer, so I'm really excited about it. So that's kind of another idea on top of all of this. Composting, really, if you don't know. So, as we do, if you make your meals daily, we make dinner here for our family every day.
I make dinner, not Sam.
Okay. I'm moral support anyway. So there's a lot of scraps. You have just like, tops of strawberries, tops of carrots, onion, scraps, really like just kind of anything. There's always kind of scraps whenever you're making food. And what you can do is compost that. So you can basically help put that into a garden, and it'll help the soil, it'll help grow whatever you're trying to make, and it doesn't waste any of the food. Usually the food that we're making is biodegradable, so it's definitely a good way. It makes me feel better when I know, like, if I don't want the top to my strawberry or something, like, it'll contribute to something else, and I'm not just wasting it, it's going towards something else. So now in terms of fashion and what you can do, obviously number one thing, which probably everyone at this point has heard, is to thrift. That would probably be my second recommendation. My first one, I think, would be to exchange with any friends or family. Exchanging with your friends and family, that immediately makes the clothes last longer. I have so many hand-me-downs. I've given my friends so many hand-me-downs. Thrifting is also really good, like I said. The only thing is, a lot of places like Savers and Goodwill, just for example, really popular places, to go for thrifting, they get a lot of clothes, like a lot of them, that they end up having to give them away. And the majority of the clothes still ends up in landfills. So I would recommend buying from thrift stores. I wouldn't necessarily recommend too much giving to thrift stores, just because they really don't need the extra clothes that they already have. I really recommend giving them to really to anyone. If it doesn't fit you anymore, give it to someone younger that you know. If you just don't like it anymore, give it to a friend. Even sell them if you're trying to make a little bit extra money.
Depop.
Depop. Yeah, I've heard Depop is a place where you can sell your clothes. And yeah, I really recommend doing that. And another thing. Oh, you have a question?
I have a quick thing to add in.
Mm-hmm.
So, since we've been under quarantine, I already know I asked like 4 questions about this, but since we've been under quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
you know how like only one person's allowed like inside of a store now?
Yeah.
And people just buy like, they don't, like they used to like buy what they need,
Mm-hmm.
but now they just buy what they want, so
Yeah.
like they could get everything before people.
Yeah.
I feel like that's creating more waste because people are buying like
100%.
10,000 more supplies of food that they need.
No, 100%.
And then they just like end up throwing it away.
Mm-hmm. Like,
But if they just like got what they needed, like,
yeah.
I think like not as much as food would be wasted.
No, 100%. You make a really good point, Jack. Like, we've had this conversation, at least Steph and I have had this conversation before, that it's crazy. We've all seen kind of what, people decide to do in, under this stress. Like, even before quarantine, when we heard that there was going to be a storm or something like that, everyone's like, gonna go to the store, get all the milk and bread and whatever that we need. But in terms of this, we're still allowed to go out, and get these foods. Obviously, we do want to make our food last longer because we don't want to be out as much. But with that, just exactly what Jack said, he made such an awesome point, comes waste. Like, our mom last week bought 3 gallons of milk, right? And got them all, didn't pay attention to the expiration dates on any of them, and all 3 of them, They were whole gallons, like they're big. And the expiration date was like the same for basically all 3 of them. Yeah. And it's such a good example of what a whole bunch of people are doing. They're buying a whole bunch of stuff that are expiring around the same time, and you're not going to eat and drink that much.
Yeah, and only 2 people in this house drink the milk, too.
Oh, yeah. Also,
yeah,
like
the thing is, our mom, she does not drink it that much.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much the only one in the house that drinks it.
Yeah, Jack is pretty much the only one in the house that drinks milk. Everyone else uses it pretty much for their cereal. And we don't need 3 gallons of milk at once. And especially, like, it's just a really good example, like, what she did, and how, like, they all ended up, like, 2 of the gallons ended up being wasted because they went bad.
Jack, like, came up to us. He was like, this milk doesn't taste good.
He was like, this doesn't taste good. He's like, can you smell it? So I don't drink milk, so I had no idea if it's, like, really smelled too bad or not. And Steph was like, yeah, no, this is not good anymore. And it was because she got 3 gallons that we just didn't need. Yeah. And they went bad before the first one was gone.
So down the drain they went.
Yeah, so Jack, now that's a really good point. That basically what Mom did right there is what a lot of people are doing now.
I just have, like, one tiny thing to add in.
Yeah.
So my friend Owen, we were FaceTiming one time, and he was at his grandparents' house, and we were gonna, like, play video games, but he wasn't at his house. But but then he, like, told me out of, like, nowhere. He's like, oh yeah, my grandfather's all stocked up on food and stuff. And, like, when he said that, he meant it. And his grandfather was, like, stocked up on food for, like, 2 years.
Oh my god.
And the thing is, like, half of it will probably not even be used.
Oh jeez.
He had, like, 4 things of, like, just hot dog buns itself.
Oh,
he had,
those
like,
are gonna go bad.
He had,
So
like,
fast.
6 ketchups, 6 mustards.
Oh my god.
He had, like, 8 Cokes, 8 Sprites.
So what's really gonna make you survive is hot dogs, Coke, ketchup, and mustard.
Yes,
No,
what a healthy 2 years
he had,
he'll
like,
have.
6 things of chickens. He had, like, 4 steaks.
Does not realize all of that's gonna go bad? Like,
exactly, but he said, oh yeah, we stocked up because we knew all of this will be used, but there's only 2 people that actually live in there, and Owen goes over there once a month.
Jeez.
Oh my god, all of that food must have been had to been
And
thrown away.
they at least had, like, 6 to 8 gallons of milk.
Jesus. So, back a little bit back on topic.
Quick fact: they're
yes.
both lactose intolerant.
Oh,
Love that.
Glad
like
that
the cows.
Glad they got the milk then. So yeah, another thing is that I do. I purchase from companies who are 100% transparent about their labor and fair trade commissions. Because I really don't want to. Like I said, contribute to those hard human labor conditions. I really do my best to stray away from those companies. I pay attention to what my clothes are made out of, so buying garments that are mostly 100% organic cotton, not just 100% cotton, but 100% organic cotton, because 100% organic cotton is from non-genetically modified plants. They don't have any synthetic chemicals and pesticides. It uses low impact farming methods, and they use less water because they a lot of the companies make the organic that grow the organic cotton reuse their leftover waters, which is amazing. So organic cotton, also with that, organic cotton is extremely expensive, so that's why I really recommend, if you don't have the finances to be able to spend the money on morally made clothing, then that's why I extremely recommend exchanging clothes or thrifting. Another is avoiding polyester and nylon made clothes because they aren't biodegradable, like I stated before. And repurposing your clothes. If you really have nothing to do with them, you don't, want to give them away or something, kind of make them into a new type of clothing. I've seen a lot of people, if you have a long shirt, you don't like how it looks, make it into a crop top. Or if you have a whole bunch of, old sweaters that you love because they have childhood memories onto them, you can, cut out the middles of them, like there's a logo on it, and you can make it into a blanket. Give yourself a little bit of a project to do.
Could I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is with Owen's grandparents again.
Mm-hmm.
All the clothes that they don't use, Owen's grandmother takes all of them and stitches or whatever, and makes a blanket.
Oh,
and
right.
she does that for a hobby, and she like gives them away to like the homeless.
That's so awesome.
So awesome.
See, everyone, if anyone else is listening, please talk to our professor. That's awesome. Oh my god, I want to do that. That's
Maybe
amazing.
take up the hobby. That's really cool.
Yeah, we're in quarantine, guys. We have nothing better to do, especially so off topic. But yeah, there's like a lot of the homeless people right now are really struggling because of Corona right now. There's anything you can do, like Owen's grandma. If you want to make something, give it to them. Please do so. I know Steph and I, every time we're out and we see a homeless person, Steph's immediately like, she doesn't matter, she will like flip the car over to like go to a restaurant, buy them something to eat, and give them something to eat. You never know. Anyway, that was a quick side note. But we're gonna get into actually another side note about some things that we've seen recently that that relate to the fast fashion and food and agriculture system that we have found really interesting.
Yeah, so just a little thing that I kind of wanted to talk about that, you know, personally really affected me when I watched it. There's a movie, it was on Netflix, I'm not sure if it still is, but it was called Okaja. I'm really hoping I'm pronouncing that right and not absolutely butchering it. But the producer is actually the same producer from Parasite. You guys may know him.
Bong Joon-ho.
Yes. And the whole movie is just about, you know, corporate greed, animal rights, and it's just a beautifully made movie. I cried, not gonna lie. It's kind of long, but it's very beautiful, and I really recommend you watch it, you know. And after directing this, he said, the animals are experiencing a holocaust, but to the companies, it's just mass production. And, you know, I think that's such a powerful statement, because these companies don't care about the way that they're hurting these animals, because they just see them as money. And yeah, it was just a great movie. So if you guys ever get the chance, definitely go watch that. Yeah. It's called Akaja.
Spelled Okja. So yeah, definitely check that out. Another thing that's related to fast fashion is how the fashion industry is influencing other industries. I very recently have been thinking about this, and I actually saw a YouTube video yesterday, and I was so excited when I watched it because it had to do with this.
You talked to me about it probably for 3 hours straight.
I did talk about it for a long time. So I was watching a YouTube video by a guy named Hyman, Hyman, if you want to look him up on YouTube. And he talked about, so he's a skincare specialist, and he talked about the skincare world being unsustainable. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have been just wanting to talk about this because I love skincare, but I've been personally having a really hard time with skincare companies because I don't like the packaging that it comes in. A lot of it's plastic, and I can't send it back to get them refilled and bring it back, and I've been struggling. I buy from the Body Shop for my skincare products because they have the number one best fair trade system probably in the world, definitely in the skincare world. But he was talking about how the skincare world is really turning into the fast fashion industry with in terms of production and consumption. So, skincare companies, they're putting out a line of skincare, in 1 month, saying a January. And they're saying, look at this new line. It has, it's paraben-free, super awesome for your skin, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole line, get it. And, everyone's going to buy it. And then the next month or a couple months after, they're saying the same exact thing again. They're saying a new line, get this. And what that's creating, skincare lasts a long time. You do not have to go out every month, 2 months really to buy skincare. It lasts a long time. And what this does when they're putting out new lines, there's a lot of people that are just getting rid of that old line that they had and buying a new one. And like I said before, the packaging of skincare companies is not good. It's mostly all plastic. So when they're getting rid of all of this stuff, not only are they wasting the product that's inside of it that they didn't finish because they wanted the new line, but they're also producing a lot of plastic just going into the world. That's just not absolutely needed at all.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, the same thing with, like, makeup, like, like the new
Yeah.
Kylie Jenner palette or the new Jeffree Star palette's coming out. But makeup, I feel like, lasts a pretty long time.
Yeah.
I don't wear it, but from what I've seen,
It does, lasts a long time.
And all my friends always, like, want, like, the newest palette or newest this, and it's just such a waste. Because, or they'll buy a palette and they'll only use one color on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you buying a whole palette that's like $50 and takes so much to produce?
Exactly. And unlike, the, fashion world with clothes, you can, obviously, like I said, you can, like, give them away and stuff like that. But when it comes to, like, skincare, a lot of people, it's specialized for your skin. So it's going to be hard to give, your extra products away. And for makeup, that's unsanitary.
Yeah.
You're not gonna really want to, like, accept used makeup from someone. So it's like, he made such a good point with how companies are trying to produce fast and cheap, and they're turning into the fast fashion, and it just shows how much the fashion industry is influencing other industries like the skincare one. And I was just like, I was geeking out when I watched this video. I really recommend watching it. The YouTube channel is Hyman, Hyman, once again. He does a really good job talking about how the skincare world is unsustainable and turning into the fast fashion industry. So that was a quick side note.
That was
actually all that we had.
That was all we had to say, like, an hour later.
So, Jack, is there anything you want to promote?
Yes.
You have 5 seconds to promote something. Go ahead.
Wait, but before I say that,
Okay.
I'm saying this on my own free will, by the way.
Okay.
I'm not made saying this. There's a horror movie called The Platform, and it involves, like, wasting food and stuff, and it's like there's, like, 300 levels, and the first level gets served, like, the most food, and, like, every, like, month or so, you get put on a different level, and basically people feel like if they don't eat, like, as much as they can, they won't eat. So the people on the first maybe 30 floors will eat everything. And then when it gets down to, like, the 100th floor, people will left with, like, bones and stuff.
Yeah, nothing to eat.
And it just shows how, like,
greedy.
Yeah, like, how greedy people could be just, like, with food. Even though if, like, someone took, like, because before they asked what their favorite food is, and every person that said their favorite food, they put their favorite dish on there. So if they just ate what they said their favorite dishes, everyone would have enough food to eat.
Yeah, no, I mean, we all watched that movie, and it was an amazing movie. And honestly, I completely suggest it. It's really, like, it just makes you think. Like, I know afterwards, it was, like, 5 o'clock in the morning after when we finished it, and I went online, and I was just researching and looking at stuff, and it's such a good parallel to, like, us humans and how greedy we can be.
Yeah, and how, that was a good way of putting it. Kind of off topic, but it definitely goes into how, food industry and fashion industry and how greedy we are. We want things, we want everything. We want everything at once. And this movie definitely showed that, how I really recommend looking up, watching the trailer called The Platform. It was on Netflix. Definitely shows how greedy people are in all aspects of life. We definitely learned something from it. We had long conversations about it. Really recommend it. So yeah, Jack, since that was... Okay, anything you want to promote? You have 5 seconds. Go ahead.
I want to promote my YouTube channel. It's RONONXY. And I'm the first one that pops up, but it's not going to say that because I changed my channel name. It's actually, like, it starts with an L. It's like LIN something.
Doesn't even know his own channel.
But if you search up RONONXY, it'll come up. Okay. And that's all.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for joining us and listening to us talk for so extremely long. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Sam?
you for listening to us about the fashion world and food and agriculture system world. I know we're doing our best to, to not contribute to these causes. I know I want to save the environment. I want to do my best, what I can as just one person. I believe we can all do it. It's not really about making big sacrifices. It's really about the little ones, and I think a lot of people let that get over their heads. And yeah, so I just want to thank little brother Jack for joining us. He has a big smile on his face.
Because I get Taco Bell.
I
Remember that.
I did tell him 2 weeks ago I would get him Taco Bell. Anyway.
But stay safe, stay healthy, guys. I know this is a rough time. Just
Yes.
try to stay as sane as you can, and, maybe we'll see you again one day. Who knows?
Who knows? All right, thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.